Now I'm going to start my tutorial here. So I want to thank the internet. This is my first video I am making, and gonna have a little bit of editing too, and chopping up from my main stream to teach everything there is to know about the fundamentals of Nioh using Nioh 2. A lot of this will also apply to Samurai mode in Nioh 3. Probably like 90% of it will. Gonna go over all the basics. Gonna go over combat flow, your inventory. Gonna go over um, the forge and how item crafting and all that stuff works, and how item upgrading works, and overall gameplay, which is a lot more than what I'm summing up here. So, first thing to know is that when you attack, you have your light attacks and you have your heavy attacks. And before we go anything further, the biggest core thing to know about this game is your ki and your ki pulse. So before I get into anything else other than weapon swings, this is the most important thing. So if anybody's going to take anything away from this tutorial, and it's the first time looking at a Nioh game, is the ki and the ki pulse. When I say ki, it's your typical stamina bar in a Souls-like. It is the green bar underneath the health bar. In this game, is referred to as ki, and it is important to differentiate it because stamina is an actual attribute in this game, and I don't want to confuse anybody. So when we talk, ki is that green bar that dictates your attacks and dodges and stuff like that. So when you attack, when I'm attacking here, I want everyone to keep an eye on that green bar. Very important because it does function differently than other Souls likes. You notice as I'm attacking, it looks orange, and then it kind of fills up white, and then the stamina starts regenerating. In this game, there is a technique. It is called ki pulse. It is done with either right bumper or R1, depending on what kind of controller you're using. But if you do it when that white bar fills it up, you instantly regain that ki, so that way you can keep attacking, dodging, and whatnot. Makes it so that way combat is a lot more fluid, a lot quicker. There's a lot less downtime, and you do start off only being able to use R1 to restore it, but you learn very early on a technique that lets you dodge to restore it as well. So you don't have to be deciding whether you're going to restore your ki or dodge. You can just dodge to restore your ki. You also don't need to stare up at that left corner to know when to do the ki pulse. If you look at my character, I want you to pay attention to the center of my character. You'll notice some white sparks whenever I swing, and then they kind of zip up towards the middle here when the attack is done, and that is your visual indicator as to when to ki pulse. So if you hit R1 when it comes to the center, person does a little flash, that's how you know you did the ki pulse. If you don't do it at the right time, it won't be as big of a visual. Because you can ki pulse early, you obviously won't restore as much ki. So it's something to just practice when you're not in combat, so that way you get used to it, and eventually it does become muscle memory. Then you'll do it without even thinking about it in combat. With enough practice, obviously. So that, if anything gets taken away from this tutorial, it is the ki pulse. It saves you. In this game, in Nioh 2, there are a total of 11 weapon types. It is important to note that because each weapon type has its own skill tree. We'll go into that a bit later. Another thing to note, because you might think, oh, there's only 11 weapon types, combat will get kind of boring. Each weapon type, when you're fighting, you have 3 stances in combat. So you have your low stance, and if you look at the bottom right hand corner, you'll notice a visual indicator. Normally when I'm streaming, I'm blocking that because you could also see on my character, she's holding her axe down low. So that's low stance. Then we have medium stance, and then you have your high stance. And each one has its own unique attack pattern, its own unique weapon skills, its own unique dodges. In this game, dodging is not tied to equip load. So whether you're a light equip load, medium, or heavy, your character will always dodge the same. Your dodge is based on which of these three stances you are in. So if you're in low stance here, you will always do quick dodges. You have infinite dodges. There will always be quick dashes. Has the lowest amount of iframes, but quickest recovery. We go to medium stance. It's a dodge followed by a roll. The dash has low iframes. The roll has larger iframes. And then when you're in high stance, all you have is a long roll, which, unlike in a game like Elden Ring or the FromSoft games, this long roll has a lot of iframes. It's still pretty fast, and it is actually required to dodge out a couple of enemy attacks. So each stance has its own use and its own purpose for which dodge is optimal given any situation. And when I said the attack patterns are different, your we can go over that. Your low attacks are nice, fast, quick attacks meant to do continual damage. The axe is the slowest weapon in the game, so if you're like, oh, that's not that fast, it's because I'm using an axe. That's all that is. If we go to medium stance has the it's your crowd control, horizontal swings for the most part. Also, it has medium stance is where your weapon skills will have your parries, your deflects, your perfect blocks, things along those nature. Also, blocking in medium stance will consume less ki than in other stances. And high stance is big Unga Boonga damage. It's your slowest weapon swings, biggest hitting burst damage on your weapon swings. And now, I'm actually going to switch my weapon up here because the axe has the least amount of abilities on it. And show you how different abilities can be, we're actually going to go and be on our... Let's see if we have a katana. I should have a katana somewhere. That's an Odachi? Yep, that's an Odachi. I currently do not have a katana on me, so we're going to use this weapon. Also visually easy to see. The thing what I said about skill trees is that your weapons have customizable skills. And so, me using the axe, I might be using different skills than you picked to use with the axe. We're going to switch to the switchblade because it has more skills in total than the axe does. The axe is a more beginner-friendly weapon than the switchblade is. But we're going to start off in low stance. So you have your normal attack. Then you have your heavy attack. And then if you do your light attack into a heavy attack, that's one of your weapon skills. It's important to note that light into heavy does a weapon skill because it does that in every stance. Here it is in medium. And I have it set up in high to still be the same. Some weapons, you actually have attacks that are strong attack into your quick attack will do a separate weapon skill. Neither of the weapons I'm using have that. To show that, we can jump over to our Tonfa here. Does our Tonfa have one? I might not have learned it. I did not learn with the Tonfa. Some of the weapons have them, some of them don't. I don't have one equipped to show you right away. But also, when you're blocking, you also have weapon skills from blocking. Like I said, it's typically your parries, your dodges, things along those lines. Both light and heavy attacks will do different things. Here's, as an example, low stance, blocking, light attack, and then low stance, blocking, heavy attack. And each stance is unique. So if I'm in medium stance now, that's your light attack while blocking. Here's that, and then that's a special deflect dodge when blocking. Same with heavy stance. That's blocking with light attack and blocking with heavy attack. So you have a lot of tools at your disposal in this game at any given time. Also, you have holding the heavy attack. Charged heavies will also do a different ability, depending on what stance you're in. So, you have three different stances, three different dodge types, and by the time you're done learning your skill trees and getting all the buttons set up, because it doesn't throw everything at you at once, thank God, but it's not uncommon for a weapon to have 11 to 13 weapon skills active at one time that you have access to. Because some of them also have, there's a fourth stance, you can sheath your weapon, which just not is visually nice. It's just visually nice to see your character sheath their weapon. But some weapons will either have an attack or an activatable buff they can do from sheath. So this is like the fourth stance is more unique, but like from sheath, I can actually do an attack here. And when talking about the key pulse, one little side note about the key pulse here, again I'm very organized, is if we deplete most of our, let's not key pulse here. If you key pulse and then switch stances, you'll see, I'll do it again. If you watch the stamina meter here, when you key pulse and then you switch stances, you regen an extra chunk, and you can actually do that twice, which is why even though I only key pulse to like half of my key bar, I switch stances twice real fast and it fully regened it. So there's nice little tips and little tricks you can do, little itty bitty tricks, to give yourself even more uptime that the stamina bar isn't as, or key bar. See, even I call it stamina. Even I call it stamina. I was trying not to confuse you. I said it too. Even I call it key bar stamina. Um, there's actually little things you can do like that that will be able to what you call it, keep your key meter up. This is right here the list of all of your skill trees. Every single weapon type has its own skill tree, and then you also have a general skill tree called Samurai. Shiftling, that is, there is a ability called Yokai Shift. Think of it as like a limit break ability. You have a skill tree for that. You have a skill tree for ninjutsu and a skill tree for magic. And so it doesn't throw everything out at you all at once. So if you look in the upper left hand corner here, next to where it says the ability, it says dual hurl, it tells you requires skill points. But as you go through, the next one over says you need to clear a mission, Way of the Warrior Novice. So as you play through the game, it will open up over time. So it's not, the whole tree isn't thrown at you at once. You unlock it when you're like 2/3 of the way through. You'll have everything unlocked because you have a novice training, you have a depth training, and then you get veteran training. And then after veteran training, you have a trial that will unlock a special buff, passive buff for the weapon. Also, while talking about skill trees, some bosses have hidden abilities for weapons, and if you unlock it, it'll make sure you know that you unlocked it in skill. But in the skill tree, it'll be denoted as having the purple ring around it to let you know that you've unlocked it. And usually they're special attacks that are not better, but I personally think they're more situationally useful. Some weapons have more than others, like the hatchet has one, the sword, katana, I think has 7 that you can learn from bosses. But really, it's all about play around with the weapons, whichever weapon you like, use that weapon, because each weapon has its own experience gauge, which are just stats you can keep track of. So each weapon has its own experience. Don't worry about if you start using one weapon and you finish the first couple of regions of the map and you don't like the weapon anymore. Don't think there's no some lost fallacy in this game because there is catch up XP for weapons as you go through. The weapon XP is determined by the level of the enemy you're attacking. So, for instance, earlier in a previous stream, I think last week, I decided to switch over and start using Switchglaive, which is the bottom left hand corner here, right next to my picture. You see how it says level 50? That was level 1, and it got to level 36 in about 20 minutes. So, but I was in New Game Plus 3 doing that. So don't worry, but the key is don't worry about, oh, I've been using this weapon, I'm stuck using this weapon. The catch up XP is very, very generous in this game. So you don't sweat only being stuck using a weapon because you use it and then you're afraid of the grind using another weapon taking too long. Next, and I think that covers everything with both weapons, their skills, their weapon skills, key management, the stances. Whatever I'm streaming, whether I'm streaming this game or another game, feel free to ask or leave it in the comments if you have a question about something that you think I missed. Um, I about this or anything else I go over in the video. Feel free to ask. I'm always willing to answer any questions. I stream nightly, 11 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know the weird hours. I don't really have a choice, medical reasons. Don't want to get into that here. This is a tutorial video. Um, but we mentioned equipment weight not having an effect on your dodges. Your equipment weight in this game is determined by it affects how much stamina you use to dodge, how much stamina you use to attack, how much stamina you use to block. It also color codes it for you in this game. So if you look up at the top middle here, we're in our equipment screen right now. This is our glorious equipment screen. If you look in the top middle, you see how it has our current equipment weight and then our weight percentage, because it does give you the exact percentage of your weight, which is really nice, and I wish more games did that. But it color codes it. So green means you're in medium. If it's in blue, then you're in light. If it's in yellow, you're weighing too much because you're heavy. You never want to be over 70%. Under 30% is light. Over 70%, you're in heavy. Right now, we're in medium. Something to note different from some other Souls like is that I'm on my armor. I'm highlighted on my armor right now for the important reason that your weapons don't affect your equipment weight. So my hand cannon, my bow, my switchglaive, and my great axe do not have weight associated with them. So you don't run into that problem of, oh, I want to be a big bonking boy, but now I can't. I have to be a big naked bonky boy because the bonky stick weighed 30 pounds. This game doesn't do that to you, so feel free to be the biggest Giga Chad heavy armor wielding bonky boy that you want to, without having to spend 70 hours to get enough stamina to do it. Before we get too into that, you have 4 quick slot tabs. You have quick slot tabs in this game. I will bounce back after the inventory screen here to show you how the tabs work, because that's very important. Because you see I have 2 melee weapons, 2 ranged weapons, and then 4 tabs for items usage. It's easier in this game than a FromSoft game to use your quick slot items because you can just tab over to them really quickly. Because this will be where you'll be using this a lot if you're heavy on your ninjutsu. If you're heavy on your magic, you'll be using the consumable tabs a lot. That's why my model's in an awkward spot, because the consumable tab is right next to me. The 4 things there are the directional pad, as the directional buttons on your D-pad on your controller. So and the way you change them is by holding R1. The way you change any equipment is holding the R1 or right bumper. Like I said, A, X, and Y is actually highlighted for the stances. But then if you hit down, you change your melee weapon, which you can see right above. It has a little icon that shows you which weapon you currently have active. And pressing up will change your ranged weapon. And then left and right changes your consumable quick slots. So typically, it's only 1 to 2 button presses away to use any consumable you want. I tend to, for the most part, use the first one, the second one, and then the fourth one because then I'm only pressing one button to switch the tab over to the consumable I need to use in the given moment. That it's always just a quick button press away that you have access to 12 different consumables without needing to take 30 seconds to find them. Be a little hyperbolic, but in the stress of a moment when enemies chasing you down and trying to eat your face, having to press right like 7 times to get to the right consumable you need is stressful. But having to hold R1 and press it once is a lot easier. Again, being hyperbolic. Just wanted to throw that out there while we're on this screen. We will refer to back to this screen because there is something else to refer to on this screen. But that comes later. That comes later. There's one more aspect of combat that we're not going to touch on just yet. It's one of the last things of this video before we get into equipment upgrades and things like that. Um, so we will come back to that screen. And because I did want to touch on something here that has to do with with how stats work in this game. You may have noticed earlier when I was highlighting my weapons that it says attack bonus right above my head here, and it has 3 different attributes associated with them. Also, when looking at the equipment right directly next to me, where my tail is kind of blocking, it also has 2 attributes. Like for here, it says stamina and strength, and it has an attribute requirement for it. Your light, heavy, and medium armor is first off dictated by the little weight icons. So right below the picture, if you look right below the picture, it has a weight icon, and there's 3 of them there. If I change to something medium armor, it has 2 of them, and then light armor has 1. So it will tell you what kind of equipment just by a quick glance at that item, so that way you know whether this is going to be chunky, medium, or light. And that's also important because if you look back down to the stats down here, that my tail is conveniently cutting off a little bit, or inconveniently cutting off a little bit, I'm sorry. Light armor requires constitution and skill. Medium armor requires constitution and strength. And then heavy armor requires constitution and or stamina and strength. I'm sorry. Heavy armor requires stamina and strength to wield. So, that's important to note because that means that for the most part, like with medium armor, sometimes you have to put some points into your equipment load. For the most part, if you're in medium armor, you're going to be in medium equip load. If you're in light armor, you're going to be in that light equip load. If you're in heavy armor, you're probably still going to be in medium equip load because you're going to be increasing your equip load max a lot. But that also that both ties into. I just wanted to let people know that so that way if you ever see that you don't meet attribute requirements, that'll be grayed out. Like right here, I don't have enough skill to wear this helmet, so I miss out on all the substats listed here. So so that's why when you're looking at the armor, it's not that um, stat intensive to equip the pieces. So when you're playing around, you can literally just play around with them. When you get into the end game, it starts to get a little bit more so, but by that point, your stats are a little bit more streamlined. It's real easy to respec in this game, so feel free to respec whenever you feel you need to change it up. It's real easy to respec in this game, so no need to worry about that. Same with the skill tree for the weapons, real easy to reset that stuff. Um, but back to the weapons here. It has 3 attack attributes, and they each have different values to them depending on what kind of a weapon you're using. Every single one of those 11 weapon types has 3 attack stats or 3 attribute stats, and just they're all the different attributes that you can level up, obviously. But what that means is you don't have any stat that doesn't affect a weapon in this game. So if you wanted to be the healthiest, chunkiest boy in the world and max out your equip weight to wear the heaviest armor and have the most HP, look at the hammer. Attack bonus based on stamina, attack bonus based on your constitution, which dictates your health. So you could be the beefiest, chunkiest boy, and you will still have a weapon that scales in damage just as hard. The courage stat that you see there affects your key regen. Like if you use all your ki and you don't ki pulse, it just that's your natural ki regen. Um, so I just want to let people know as we go into the stat screen here that where it shows your core stats, conveniently right above my head, is that Constitution affects your max health, your heart will affect your maximum ki, your courage affects your passive ki regen, stamina affects your equipment load, your max equip load, strength will affect your max ki pulse. Courage also has a small effect on your magic power. Skill will affect. I know skill has a small effect on your ninjutsu, and that's the main thing that skill does by itself, aside from increasing the damage of a weapon. Dexterity has a little shuriken, because dexterity affects your maximum amount of ninjutsu you can equip at a time, as well as your ninjutsu damage. The magic is the same for magic. And that has your level, how much life, ki, your passive ki recovery speed. Anima, we haven't gotten into yet. Anima is just a whole other thing, which my head is kind of blocking here. Let me move myself. I moved myself. So now we can see better. Um, but even on your stat screen, so it's important to know that your equipment weight is shown. Your agility is your equip weight tier, so B is medium. Um, and then right above my head, literally right above my head, it tells you your actual defense stat, toughness, hyper armor, poise, hyper armor, what have you. And hyper armor is broken down by tiers that you have C, B, and A. And then there's double A, but you don't even encounter that baby until New Game Plus 3. And I make a mention of that because this game does change up as you go through the new game cycles. And then it breaks down how much flat percentage resistances you have aside from your defense amount. Like, I have a physical defense of 25 right there, and then the rest, my model is now blocking. But then it has your attack. Break is stamina damage. I'm looking at the top middle. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the top middle right now. For your melee weapon, attack is your damage. Break is your stamina damage, and then block is how much your block value is. Different weapon to weapon, obviously. Has them for your ranged weapons as well. And for stats, that should be it, I believe, on terms of stats. Next, we'll go into the soul cores. The one other thing that I said we were going to mention here. I am filling up right now that purple bar because there's another really big core mechanic. It's called the burst counter. There's 3 different types of burst counters in this game. There is the perfect block, the perfect dodge, kind of, and the pimp smack. Those are 3 burst counters that depend on what kind of guardian spirit you're using. And if you're like, what the heck's a guardian spirit? Let's go over here to our bonfire, shrine, point of grace, what have you. It's all the same thing. Here's what the level up screen actually looks like. Before I actually level up, little quality of life thing. When I move my character one more time because we don't need to see my quick slot items anymore. So I can be like right here, and I'm out of the way for the rest of the tutorial. So, bottom right hand corner has my souls. In this game, they're called Amrita. Souls, runes, Amrita, XP. You notice here, it has the number, and it's highlighted by a yellow line, and it has that yellow symbol next to it. That is actually telling you have enough to level up. So if I go here, and I level up, put a point in Constitution there, you will see that highlighted line is now grayed out, that symbol is now grayed out. So as you're playing through, you'll notice you can level up because it actually highlights it for you and gives you that little indicator to know that you can level up at the shrine when you want to. The next thing we'll go over, because this is going to be the last two things to do with the actual combat itself, is your Guardian Spirit and your Soul Cores. So as you play through the game, you start off getting to pick one out of three, because you get to pick one of the three types. Brute, which is the Pimp Smack. The Feral, which is your Ninja Perfect Dodge. And your Phantom, which is perfect blocking for your burst counters. We'll go over burst counter. I'll fight an enemy. I'll show you where burst counter is with Phantom because that's the one I'm currently using. But something to note is that when I say it's a limit break, in the upper left-hand corner you see the symbol where it's the yellow elephant. That will have a bubble that will fill as you play, and when it completely fills, you can press R2 plus B and you enter what's called Yokai Shift, your limit break mode, which has a set duration which decreases as you attack, block, dodge, what have you, but it lasts for a duration. And so, brute form, big Oonga Boonga club, smack things around. Feral form, twin daggers, nice, quick, agile. And then Phantom does ranged attacks and can also do gap closes. If enemies get too far away, you can literally just use a strong attack and teleport yourself to the enemy to put yourself in the range. Because it's range, but it's like medium range. And so as you play through, you'll get more and more guardian spirits, and your form will only change based on whether it's feral, brute, or phantom. Those three forms for your yokai shift. You won't have any others than the three. But each guardian spirit gives you different stats, and they also have different stat requirements. So, which is another reason why each weapon has three stats that can scale off of, because if we go down here, let's find one that I don't have everything on, like this one. It gives you the symbols to let you know based on the attribute screen what you need to do. It has, like this one I'll have ninjutsu where it says ammo bonus, that's for ninjutsu and that's for heart. So you need a combined total between those two stats of 37 in order to activate that ability. The one above it, I want to say that's skill and magic. Um, yeah, that's skill and magic. So I'm 4 points away from that. If I have 4 more points in magic or skill, that ability would unlock. So your guardian spirits, as you go through, easily play around, switch them up, find one that works best for you. Find a burst counter mode that works best for you because you're gonna like one more than others. I will say this: Feral is the most beginner friendly, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But between perfect blocking, perfect dodging, and the backhand, personally, I'm an older person. The back having the instinct to backhand the moment I see the ability happening. I'm a little slow on that. I usually hit the enemy as they hit me, so I tend to stick to the dodge and the block. But as you play, you'll get more, and then you can kind of mess around with your builds a lot more. This game, your builds open up as you play through more and more, even through the new game pluses. I'll explain why later on. Um, but now we have our soul cores. You start off being able to have two soul cores on a guardian spirit at a time, eventually unlock a third one, and eventually unlock the ability to switch guardian spirits in the fly, so you can have up to 2 guardian spirits and 6 soul cores equipped at a time. Soul cores are enemy skills. Every single enemy in the game, every single enemy in the game can drop a soul core that lets you use an ability that the enemy has, lets you use an attack that the enemy has. That's what that purple gauge you saw me filling up earlier was, because each one has a cost. So like here, if I wanted to use the Kappa Shell to stop yourself from having back attacks, it costs 6 anima to use. The attunement cost is how much it takes to put it onto the Guardian Spirit. And so every single enemy attack in the game, well, not every single attack, every single enemy will have an attack that you can learn to use against enemies. So naturally, as you go through, and that includes bosses, by the way. Like, this is a boss I just beat before deciding to do this tutorial. Here's another boss move. Typically, they're bigger and heavier hidden, more impressive than regular enemies, but they also have a higher attunement cost. Something to note about the Soul Core abilities is there are animation cancels. This game has a couple of different animation cancels in it. One of them is using a Soul Core. So as you're fighting, when you see me go to fight an enemy, to show you the burst counters, you'll also see me use an enemy skill. The enemy is called Ibandatar. He has a big hammer. You'll see me use him. When you're fighting an enemy, every enemy has a stamina bar. For humans, once their stamina bar is depleted, if you hit them, they enter what's called a winded state. They're like, ugh, I'm out of breath, ugh. And then you just get to do a grapple attack, a special grapple animation to them. If you hit a human enemy while they're winded, they fall to the floor, and you get to do what's called a final blow, a special ground attack. For yokai, for the demons, all they get is a grapple animation. There is no final blow animation for 99% of them. There's one that's like a hybrid mix that you can do a final blow to. But if you notice behind me, there's a pinkish snake lady with long hair. That's going to be what I'm going to show you this stuff on. I'm going to show you the burst counter, which you'll notice the way you can tell when a burst counter is going to happen is they'll glow red, and then they'll do an attack. The glowing red part is your indicator to know get ready to burst counter. Or if you're in brute form, press that backhand as fast as you can before you get hit. But for Feral and for Phantom, it's to let you know, hey, get ready to block or dodge. The way you burst counter with Phantom, for the dodge, the reason why I said it's kind of a perfect dodge, is you actually have to dodge into the attack. You dodge through the animation. If they're glowing like that, they're going to try and grab you. Try not to let them do that. Also, when I'm blocking, here's something to note. I'll show you how blocking works. If you hold block, you lose a portion of your stamina. There is perfect blocking, which if you perfect block, a couple of times, there's a couple ways that it can show you, depending on what you have equipped with, that will, you'll see you take less stamina when you block. Right there, that was a burst counter right there from Phantom. I also have Feral set up, so I can show you that as well. So you saw glowed red, gave the indicator that the attack was coming, and then boom, Bob's your uncle. Now we just gotta wait for it to do it again, and I can show you the Feral one. The burst counter animation is another animation cancel. See, she just went to do a paralyzing ray. I dodged right into it with my face and knocked off. It also does stamina damage to them. As you notice, that purple bar, that is a yokai stamina bar. You can deal max stamina to them. The way you're able to grapple a yokai is that you do max stamina to the yokai. You deplete out their max stamina to 0, and then you'll be able to grapple them. I'm also going to show you a little trick, because you can grapple them, but if you grapple them from a burst counter, you get to do what's called a yokai grapple, or yokai shift grapple rather. It's a way to use the grapple animation without having to be in your limit break. And this puddle right here is called a yokai field. They'll last for a while, but they also go away if you do a key pulse in them. What they do is they give the enemy constant stamina, constant key regeneration, while making your key regen slower. If you notice the enemy is regaining health, that is something unique to New Game Plus 2 and on. The pink shade that this enemy has is a special buff that appears once you hit New Game Plus 2. It's one of those special changes, because as you go through the game, you go through the New Game Pluses, enemy placements will change in your main missions, as well as enemies will gain certain buffs. Like this pink buff, they also have a red one and a purple one. If you don't deal damage to an enemy that has this buff in time, then they start to regen health. So it's one of those things that keeping the pressure on is super useful. And now she doesn't want a burst counter, and I know why, because she's about to get her butt kicked if she does. She'll do it eventually. I will show it to you guys. There we go. You have to be quick with it. So that what you just saw right there was the feral form doing his grapple animation. Like I said, it had twin daggers. Pretty cool. And I don't know why I did that so far away. If yokai abilities are really good for when the enemy has that purple gauge gone, of being able to completely knock out their yokai's max stamina. So that is, I drew out that combat a lot, but that is essentially how combat is going to look, in addition to everything we went over at the very beginning of the tutorial. I'm now going to, and I don't think I missed anything. We went over yokai abilities with soul core. The soul cores are that they drop randomly from enemies, including bosses. We went over guardian spirits. We went over the stances. We went over how to switch weapons. We went over equipment weight. We went over your quick use consumables. Went over attributes. And went over how weapons are attack power is dictated by attributes. So I think we are good for this, and what a yokai field is. There's also something called the Dark Realm. Think of that. You'll notice it. You'll be in a grayscale area. I could go show that real quick. Now, we have two things next to us. On our right, facing this way, on our right, we have the Dark Realm. On our left, we have a yokai realm. What a yokai realm is it's like a checkpoint enemy. So when you defeat it, it's a little bit stronger than your typical enemy. The game won't tell you that. The yokai realm enemy that appears is stronger than its normal version. When you kill it, if you rest at a shrine, he will not respawn. They also start off with a yokai puddle beneath them. This also lets us talk about Scampus and why he's such a god. If you notice, Scampus, whenever he hits, he deals some damage. You're like, oh, that's not a lot of damage. Are you also noticing Scampus deals max stamina damage? Let his stamina regen. Now watch when Scampus hits him, what happens. I think he's in. So as Scampus hits him, he loses max stamina damage. Scampus does physical damage constantly, so think of Scampus as a constant DOT to the enemy, also constantly dealing max stamina damage, and one other important thing that can be overlooked sometimes, and I'll show you this, I'm going to use some anima, and then I'm not going to attack. You regain anima a few different ways, and it's all dictated by your guardian spirit. You'll regain a little bit when you're attacking, but then based on your guardian spirit, there's a few other ways, like perfect blocking, using range attacks, continuous damage, like multiple hits real fast. But if I go over here and use my stamina, my anima, you will notice it is going to passively regenerate. It is not passively regenerating. Every few seconds, Scampus restores 1 full anima move. So you have Scampus. You can kind of spam out your anima because you regenerate your normal way, and then Scampus is also regenerating stamina for you. So if you notice, my character was hovering for like a brief second and then they stop. Winded animations are not typically that short when you start. There is a stat you can get called Fasted Window Recovery, and that is exactly what that does. It makes it that way if you get in a situation where you're CC'd because you have stamina, it lasts for a very short period of time. If you notice that my stamina isn't being consumed all that fast, I said Dark Realm consumes your stamina fast. My stamina is regenerating at a really nice clip. I have 150 points in the Courage stat, and Courage increases your passive stamina regen. It will be even faster if I'm out of the Dark Realm. If you see an enemy with flowers around him, like this big skelly boy right in front of me, that is the boss of the Dark Realm. But just like with the Yokai Realm enemy, he's stronger than normal variations. So all enemies of the Dark Realm are stronger. He is stronger than they are. When you kill the enemy that has the flower sprouting, the Dark Realm will go away. When the Dark Realm goes away, any enemy you killed stays gone. This is that unique enemy that you can't, or one of the unique enemies you can't grapple him. You can only do a final blow on him. Because we killed him, the Dark Realm goes away. We got a Soul Core. And also, enemies that were still left alive are instantly winded and out of stamina. Also, in the Dark Realm, you cannot open up any treasure chests. When you're out of the Dark Realm, the chests are available for you to loot.